like it. Well done by all. Thanks for getting your day going with us as we help you plan for all the big events in your neighborhood.
The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast. And while Debbie has finally moved out, the Atlantic Basin is not quieting down, Jen. We have our next system to watch, potential tropical cyclone number 5.
Yes, this is expected to become a tropical depression, tropical storm, and that's why it is a potential tropical cyclone. Some watches are up for the islands. You can see how close it is.
And even upgraded to a warning at this point for some of those islands. 90% chance we'll keep an eye on that. And it's not just the tropics that we have to keep. I don't know if that's still a thing or not.
Did that ever happen to you?
Not to my own dog, no.
Yeah. Or to you as a person. I remember as a kid, it was like...
I remember smelling skunks all the time in New York, but I never smelled them in Georgia. I know we have them in Georgia. But
same thing in Pennsylvania. It was like a thing. It was like, don't get sprayed by the skunk. You're going to have to take a bath in tomato juice. So, I don't know.
That was enough to keep me awake because I don't even like to drink tomato juice, never mind get bathed in it. But send us your comments on social media. Share your pictures and video with us as well. Just use the hashtag YesTV. The West. And unfortunately, we're not seeing that much in our forecast.
It's summertime, and we just don't get rain in the summertime. Right now, the Park Fire, which is the 5th largest fire in California, 37% contained. I mean, while they have made some progress here, this has been burning for quite a while.
And it's going to continue to produce the smoke, which is obviously bad for air quality. And this is not the only fire that we're tracking across the West. There are several that are burning, even into the Northwest. Terrible air quality in Washington and Oregon. You can see where we stand right now, Jen, well over 809,000 acres.
I mean, well above the average, well beyond last year. Last year, we just kind of lucked out with a fire season that wasn't as tough as it could have been. So today, again, is going to be a day that you got to monitor the conditions. Interestingly, around the Lake Tahoe area yesterday, I saw caught on camera a car fire happened, and it sparked a brush fire instantly. And a photographer just happened to be there at the time and caught it. And it's amazing how quick it goes up. And
good reminder, too, don't start the car on the grass. Don't throw cigarettes out the window. It's camping season. Make sure the campfire is completely out before you walk away from it. In some cases, you may not even allowed to do campfires.
Yeah. Isolated dry thunderstorms may be a factor in sparking some fires up there. You know, that's when you've got thunderstorms and the cloud base is so high, you just don't have the moisture and the low levels of the atmosphere. Lightning comes down, there's no rain, and lightning, of course, can spark new fires.
A lot of fires are human caused, though, not just nature caused, but you can see the smoke, the emissions from the smoke, depending on which way the wind is going. Stay inside if you've got respiratory issues, especially where you see the air quality alerts right here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it's been a hot start to come down as long as we don't get too much extra rainfall, which, you know, there are some thunderstorm chances. Now, it's also not just the southeast getting in on the flooding. Rounds of rain have left parts of the heartland underwater. Look at this in Oklahoma.
Reynolds and I were following this yesterday morning during our show, and the rain just kept rebuilding and rebuilding on the west side of Oklahoma City and then slowly drifting right over Norman, El Reno, Oklahoma City. And yeah, we saw flash flood warnings for a good chunk of the day.
And you know what? It was just too much rain to keep up with for the storm drains. And this is a situation where it's a true flash flood situation. It's not river flooding. It's like urban flooding.
This was actual flash flooding that happens more in a flash. That's why it's called flash flooding.
And
so let's talk about the situation that we still have, you know, more storms to deal with today.
We do, and we could see heavy rainfall. There's a number of areas that you got to watch out for. The middle of the country is one spot, and we've been dealing with that this morning. We also have thunderstorms, though, that will develop later today and turn into another cluster of storms tonight, and we could do this kind of thing again. So at the moment, 2 clusters of storms, one to the north in Missouri, one to the south in Oklahoma, moving into Arkansas. The southern one has a lot more lightning with it, just a little bit more energetic when it comes to how tall the thunderstorms are. Watching this drop some heavier rainfall, but what you'll notice with both of them is that there's been less and less lightning here as we look at the radar over just the past hour or so, and that's been a trend. So that's a good trend to see here. It's not strengthening. It's not strengthening. It could be weakening a bit, but we still have rain, heavy rain happening in eastern Oklahoma, especially right now. Also watching for new thunderstorms to develop today. There's 2 areas to watch with that possibility of some severe weather. We got to watch Utah into maybe eastern Idaho up to western Montana. And then also, you know, those storms that develop, and the Colorado ones in particular, how do they develop into a cluster of storms? This is about 7, 8, 9 o'clock tonight. That could be our new cluster of storms that develops and moves east. Here, it's a little farther north tonight, not in Oklahoma. Now we're talking Kansas. So Dodge City, Wichita, Kansas City, we could see thunderstorms that go through the overnight and then continue into the early morning hours here. The northern stuff, too, we got to keep an eye on that. How does that develop, or does it? I mean, this model doesn't show anything developing out of that and just shows our overnight cluster of storms moving through Kansas into Missouri. Then tomorrow, new chance of thunderstorms again in and Utah, stretching up through a lot of Wyoming, up into Montana. We've got east or western North and South Dakota, Nebraska, all the way down to eastern Colorado in the mix for that. So that's for our morning stuff. And then we see our new thunderstorms that do develop through the day. And we see another chance of storms developing then again into Wednesday. And then now we're going to watch a front. And Kelly, by Wednesday, we've got to watch this front moving east, and that'll trigger thunderstorms moving across the western lakes.
And of course, at the same time, you have severe weather. You know, humans have been blasting off into outer space since the 1950s, but not everything that has gone up has come back down again, right? The crew of the International Space Station has had to dodge 170 million pieces of debris that could penetrate its shields. All this while they cruise at nearly 5 miles per second.
Yeah, so you've got to worry about what kind of risk is that. Earlier this year, I spoke with some of the astronauts on board the ISS about how they navigate around all that junk. And I learned about a new project that has them working with students here on Earth. But at the same time, it's like, okay,
Scary.
there's all this stuff out there in space.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, you know.
It's funny. He's like, well, we have procedures to avoid hitting them. Well, I'm glad. And he also said hours in advance.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome, too, that they're able to
track
avoid
it. You can see it. Yeah. So they've got monitoring and they can track it. But just the fact that it's there, and at some point, will it be too much there?
And when will we put a limit onto what we put up there?
Right. And have you
there's gotta be a limit.
collected? Yes. I only have limited time with the astronauts, but I have so many follow-up questions to that one. You know what else in the sky? One thing I learned of talking to them is like how neat it is to see the things that we see on Earth from space.
Yeah, their perspective of the meteor showers.
The meteor showers,
Yeah.
the northern lights,
The eclipse, when that happens.
So different.
That was pretty cool, too.
So, but from Earth, you guys have a chance tonight, again, to see the meteor shower. This is the best one of the year. I think you have a great chance in the Northeast. We've got 0% cloud cover.
Southeast, not bad with 1% in Atlanta.
Right.
So I know the peak was early this morning pre-dawn, but you can still see them, a few days afterwards.
But you got to spend some time too, from what I've learned. And I've never seen it because I've tried, but I'm giving like an hour. You got to like look up for like a couple hours.
Usually it's when I'm driving to work and all of a sudden it'll be out of the corner of my eye and I'll be like, oh yeah, there's a meteor shower happening.
Yeah, Kelly, keep your eyes on the road.
I do. But yeah, be careful out there. Our question of the day, by the way, the dog days of summer kind of come
Those months too, where by the end of the month, you start to get these cooler snaps and you can kind of get a taste. It's not, you don't get fall weather yet.
I have noticed in my neighborhood, I don't see too many people outside during this month. People are going back to school.
Yeah.
It's too hot to play outside. It's too humid. It's just one of those uncomfortable months.
But the evenings start to get nice. You know, the sun is setting earlier. The evenings start to get really nice. You see more people taking their dog out for a walk and
that is
getting
true.
back to seeing the neighbors.
Well, send us your comments on social media. You can share your pics and videos with us by using the hashtag YesTV.
In your neighborhood.
We're glad you're joining us because we are looking at another tropical system. The Weather Channel has you covered from coast to coast. Finally said goodbye to Debbie over the weekend. It took forever to get Debbie out of here. But now we've got potential tropical cyclone 5 threatening the Caribbean islands, and we'll see where it goes from there. But it looks like it may hopefully stay off the east coast of the United States.
It is a potential cyclone now, and that's because watches and warnings needed to be issued. So they had to call it that here, but it's likely to become Ernesto, and it is forecast to become a hurricane.
Yeah, and possibly major. We'll see, kind of on the brink of that. And it's not just the tropics that we have to keep an eye on in today's big deal. We've got the rain and storms rolling across the plains. Look at those gray skies over North Platte, Nebraska, just kind of still looking at a perimeter where it can kind of spread the flames.
Yeah, it's only 37% contained. And so, well, they have made progress, but this hasn't been burning for quite a while now. And so it's only 37% contained. Acres burned, more than 429,000. The smoke from this fire has been affecting surrounding communities, but then also, of course, expanding well beyond this, too, in the West.
Yeah, remember, that's not the only fire that we are following because we haven't had much rain in the West, not even in Washington or Oregon. So you can see the number of acres burned just this year here in California, over 800,000 acres. And no rain in the forecast, Jen.
Yeah, I mean, and we wouldn't expect it either, though, because it's summertime, so it's not a rainy season. We have fire weather watches up today and red flag warnings, 2 areas, one in Nevada, up into parts of Oregon, but then also those red flag warnings where isolated dry thunderstorms could spark new fires here. And that's basically thunderstorms that don't have any moisture or rainfall.
Yeah, the park fire was actually human-induced fire, right? It was arson.
Yeah.
But sometimes you get nature involved with thunderstorms.
Somebody pushed a car on the side of a
burning
cliff.
car.
Yeah, a burning car.
So be very careful, Campfires may not be allowed. Fireworks may not be allowed in some areas because, you know, when you have such dry weather, even thunderstorms, it can bring you the lightning that can cause new fires, but we don't get the rain helping to put it out.
So here's some of the smoke here, really in Washington and Oregon. You guys have been dealing with a lot of smoke problems causing air quality issues. You can see still there as well right now. This is where air quality alerts are up from Bend down through Medford. I mean, such a pretty area to do some hiking in the summer and spend time outside, but the air quality's been tough.
Yeah, I love the Deschutes River right through Bend. Beautiful spot. But again, if you've got respiratory issues, you definitely want to limit your time outside.
It's been a hot summer so far, and rounds of rain have left parts of the heartland underwater.
Yeah, some neighborhoods will have to be on high alert again today. Yesterday morning, it was the constant showers and thunderstorms just sitting over the middle of Oklahoma. So you definitely need to watch out for not just flooding, severe weather is going to be a possibility today and tomorrow across the middle of the country.
Yeah, I mean, this is a different beast than what we saw with Debbie. This was, you know, what, a couple of hours of really heavy rainfall rates and caused all these urban problems.
It was intense. Reynolds and I were on the air during all this, and we just kept seeing more and more counties getting added to the flood warnings, and then the flood reports started to come in, and we knew how bad it was.
Yeah, now we worried about that today because we have some thunderstorms, not here, thankfully. We're getting a break in Oklahoma, well, in this part of Oklahoma, but we've got thunderstorms that will be developing through the afternoon hours that will lead to another round of overnight thunderstorms. So clusters of storms, you know, these overnight clusters, it's a very summer-like thing for the atmosphere to do. This happened last night, and it wasn't Oklahoma City per se. It was more like Tulsa and points east that got into some of the biggest of rainfall. We have that still ongoing. Weakening somewhat, less lightning up here to the top. This bottom part, though, here hanging on together and still creating some bigger rainfall rates, which could lead to some flooding. So we'll keep an eye on that. I haven't seen any reports coming out of this just yet. We also have this other big cluster to the north moving across northern Missouri. Now, this thing has been weakening, although it's still raining, but I don't see any lightning coming out of that anymore. So that's just a good trend to be seeing. Later today, new thunderstorms firing up in Utah and maybe eastern Idaho, eastern Colorado, another area. They will help be the seedlings for our next overnight cluster of thunderstorms that we see tonight into tomorrow morning. So this top one from today, this may scoot together and hold at least some rain, bring some rainfall if it holds together enough into southern Illinois. So that's something to watch. But look at all these thunderstorms developing. And then these become the late night, overnight thunderstorms. This is Kansas. So it's not Oklahoma, it's Kansas that gets into the thunderstorms activity. And from that northern stuff, do we see another area, maybe smaller, but still something to watch by tomorrow morning that could be bringing some rain. Always watching for the chances of some gusty winds coming out of these as well. Then throughout the afternoon, so our Kansas thing moves into Missouri, still keeping an eye on that for some potential showers and storms, maybe with some gusty winds. And then we do it again with the new thunderstorms that develop through the day tomorrow. Wyoming, you're right in the heart of all of it. And then that becomes our next thing that goes overnight. So this is the pattern that we're in throughout the week, Kelly, here. We just can't shake it. Speaking of the pattern we're in that time of year in the tropics.
Well, you know, humans have been blasting off into outer space since the 1950s, but not everything that has gone up has come back down again, right? The crew of the International Space Station has had to dodge 170 million pieces of debris that could penetrate its shields. All this while they cruise at nearly 5 miles per second.
Yeah, so you've got to worry about what kind of risk is that. Earlier this year, I spoke with some of the astronauts on board the ISS about how they navigate around all that junk. And I learned about a new project that has them working with students here on Earth. I saw a really neat story about AstroBee Zero Robotics, which allowed students to write software to control a free-flying robot on the ISS. I thought, how cool was that? So how did that go, and how did it go working with the students?
Well, it's a lot of fun in a nutshell, but
So lots of good efforts to protect us and lots of cool stuff in low Earth orbit right now.
It's cool, but at the same time, it's like, okay, there's all this stuff out there in space.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, you know.
It's funny. He's like, well, we have procedures to avoid hitting them. Well, I'm glad. And he also said hours in advance.
Yeah.
So that's pretty awesome, too, that they're able to
track
avoid
it. You can see it. Yeah. So they've got monitoring and they can track it. But just the fact that it's there, and at some point, will it be too much there?
And when will we put a limit onto what we put up there?
Right. And how do you
there's got to be a limit.
collect it? Yes. I only had limited time with the astronauts, but I have so many follow-up questions to that one. You know what else in the sky? One thing I learned talking to them is like how neat it is to see the things that we see on Earth from space.
Yeah, their perspective of the meteor showers.
The meteor showers,
Yeah.
the northern lights. They
The
actually
eclipse, when that happens.
So different.
That was pretty cool too.
So, but from Earth, you guys have a chance tonight again to see the meteor shower. This is the best one of the year. I think you have a great chance in the Northeast where you've got 0% cloud cover.
Southeast, not bad with 1% in Atlanta.
Great.
So I know the peak was early this morning pre-dawn, but you can still see them, a few days afterwards.
But you got to spend some time too, from what I've learned. And I've never seen it because I've tried, but I'm getting like an hour. You got to like look up for like a couple hours.
Usually it's when I'm driving to work and all of a sudden it'll be out of the corner of my eye and I'll be like, oh yeah, there's a meteor shower happening.
Yeah, Kelly, keep your eyes on the road.
I do. But yeah, be careful out there. Our question of the day, by the way, the dog days of summer.